Hi, you guys. Okay, for this week's math, we are doing lesson 32 and we're going to explore measurement. So, up until this point, we've learned terms like longer and shorter and smaller and larger. We've kind of compared sizes. So, this week, we're actually going to use non standard units to measure. So, that's not using a ruler or anything like that. It'd be using something like a paper clip or a toothpick or a cube or Cheerios or anything you have multiple items that are the same size around your house, you can use to measure. So even though the book might say a toothpick or a cube, honestly, anything that you have in your house that you have multiples of, you can use that. So the first one says to use a toothpick. Find the length of a book using toothpicks. Write the length. So you can use their math book. You don't have to use the toothpick if you don't have a bunch of them. You can use paper clips, Cheerios, Chex cereal, Goldfish. I mean, honestly, anything you have a lot of that's the same size, you can do that. So you're going to measure the book, and you can measure it either way, vertical or horizontal. And then they're going to pick another book in the house, any book, and they're going to do the same thing with the same non-standard music. So if you use Goldfish, you'll use Goldfish with the other book. So you're going to write that right here. And then it says which book is longer. So you either write math book or reading book or whatever book was longer. On this page, it says find the length of a string using toothpicks. Again, you can use the same thing you're using on the book or something different. And then even though it says about blank toothpicks long, it doesn't matter. So in the classroom, I probably would use cubes or paper clips. I don't always have toothpicks. So even though it says toothpicks, you can still write the number here. And then down here it says find the length of an object in the classroom using toothpicks. Draw the objects, write the length. So your classroom is your house right now. So you can find anything in your house and use whatever you were using on the other pages or something new. So if you're using Goldfish, you would measure it with Goldfish and then write it here and make sure that you draw it too. So if you measured a stapler, you would draw a stapler and then you'd have the little Goldfish under it to match. And then for the green pages, you're going to talk about different examples of what length means. And then on the bottom is a Buzz problem. It says Buzz uses toothpicks to find the length of an object. He says it does not matter that some of the toothpicks are broken. Do you agree? Why or why not? So you have to think if a toothpick's broken, are they all going to be the same size or are you going to have an accurate measure? So that's something that you guys could just talk about. You don't have to write down. But if you wanted your kids to do a little challenge, I would have them write it out. On the back, I would read these to them, but then they can do it on their own. It says, find the length of each object using toothpicks, write the length. Here they have a toothpick here, but you're not going to have another one that's going to be the same size. So you can, again, whatever you're using on the first page, you can use here and here. And I love how they drew the little lines on the side. So you can tell where it ends, because a lot of kids would stop at this little corner right here and not at the tip. So I really like that they draw the lines, and I encourage kids in class when we have objects to draw lines on the very edges of them so they can see if there's still more to it. So if they would have drawn the line here, they would have seen that there's like still a little piece. Also, when you're measuring it, you want to make sure you measure the whole thing. So if you have a goldfish here, and a goldfish here, and you have a tiny bit left, you would do another goldfish so the whole thing was completely measured. You don't want to have any, you don't want to have not enough. You want to have too much, not enough. So you would use whatever you're using on the first page. See how they're doing with measuring. If they're lining them up together and they're not overlapping, and that they're starting at the line and finishing either on the line or a little bit over the line, because right here it says about, so it's not going to be exact. All right, on day 2, this one says, how do you measure length? So it says, what is the length of the squares? What is the length in squares? So they have squares for you. They drew the lines on the sides of the crayon, so you can just count 1, 2, 3, 4. The problem here is a lot of kids will just keep counting. They'll count all the squares. So it's really important for them. You can even take a marker and darken it so they don't go past it. So even though we have more cubes, we want to measure just what the crayon is. And then they'll put that here. On the back, it says measure the length using squares. So you don't have squares, so you would have to do Goldfish, or if you have cubes at home, or Legos, as long as they're all the same size, you can use that for both of these. And then down here it says Boom uses 4 squares to measure a ribbon. Did Boom measure the right way? Why or why not? So when you're looking at the squares, are they all lined up the same way? Would he get the same measurement? You might even have them measure it with goldfish and have them tilt some to see if they would equal the same amount, if it matters if it's tilted or not. Again, you can have them just tell it to you. If you want it to be a little bit challenging, they can actually write their thinking down here. And then for the practice, they gave you squares on both of these with the lines already, so they can count it. And this is a good one. I would not say anything. Just say measure count how many squares a pencil is, or count how many the paintbrush is, and see if they count all of them or just to the line. And I would see what they do and just let them do the whole page and don't tell them anything. And then at the very end, ask if they're done. If they are, and they counted all of them, you can go back and correct them. This one, you're measuring these 3 objects, and it just says choose a measuring unit. So you can use whatever you want, just like before. Goldfish, Cheerios, Legos, anything that's the same size to measure these 3 objects. And then it says the fork is about blank long. So you would write it is about 5 goldfish long. Like whatever you use to measure it, whatever non-standard unit, that's what you would write right here. And you can help them with the spelling if you like, or just have them sound it out. Boom says that his leaf is 4 paper clips long. Do you agree? Why or why not? So this is a good one for them to be able to explain how they know it's 4 or how they know it's not 4. So do they have to be touching? What about the spaces in between? Those would be good like conversation starters. For day 3, it says use unit cubes to measure the length of 2 objects. Draw the objects you measure. Complete the sentence. If you don't have cubes, use whatever you want. So I would have them draw it, and then they can either measure the real object or they can just measure their picture. So if you wanted them to draw a jump rope and a pencil, and then they just took whatever non-standard unit measuring that you're using, you can measure the picture or you can measure the actual object. So it's up to you what you want to do. So there's 2 sentence frames for each picture. So this jump rope is about 15 unit cubes long. This pencil is about 10 unit cubes long. So that's what those 2 are for. On the back, they gave you objects, and they want you to use cubes to measure both of these, but you can just use whatever you used on the previous page. Then this says Buzz says that the crayon is 4 paper clips long. Do you agree? Why or why not? Again, look at the placement of the paper clips, and they should be able to tell you why or why not. So they don't have to write it, but they should be able to tell you. And then on the example page, they gave you paper clips. They gave you a non-standard unit, and so they just have to measure it out. I would have them draw lines on the sides of these so they know when to stop. On the back, it says choose a measuring unit to find the length of the bone in the spoon. Draw to show your work. So again, whatever you used on the previous page, they can just use to measure these 2, and they just have to write it. Measuring unit, goldfish. The bone is about 4 goldfish long. Measuring unit, goldfish. The spoon is about 5 goldfish long. And then this one says the feather is about blank long. So this one you can use a goldfish or whatever you used before. You would just write how many. The spoon is about 4 goldfish long. Okay. Then on day 4, they have cubes for you. So what is the length of the watch? So they have to use cubes and paper clips. There's 2 of them down there. Make sure they write them in the right spot. Cubes and paper clips. And then it says, look at problem 1. Why are the 2 lengths different for the same object? So they're going to have to really think about paper clips and cubes, and how come the cubes is more than the paper clips? Why would that be like that? And then they can either verbally tell you, or if you want them to have a little challenge, they can actually write a sentence. It is longer because, or they are different because. I always like them to say because then they'll tell you why they think that way. This one says, Buzz says the string is about 6 paper clips long. Do you agree? Why or why not? So looking at the measurement, the paper clips. They're all paper clips, but are they the same size? Are they the same length? Can you trust that? This one says, think about measuring length. Use squares to measure. So again, I would have them draw lines on the edges and then count the cubes inside the lines. And then it says the scissors are about blank squares long. Show how you measured. So that would be using the lines. Draw an object that is about 1 square shorter than the scissors. So here's your squares up here that you can use. And if the scissors are, let's say, 10 squares long, they're not, but if they were, I would want to draw something that was either 9 or less down below. So another thing that I like to do when we're doing measurement is I like to have them predict first. So before they measure it, I might show it to them and say, how many cubes long do you think the scissors are? And then I might ask them, what do you think? And then when they're measuring, they can see if their guess was correct. So that's another great thing you can do. And then after this is a reflection for the whole measurement unit. So this would be like a good little like practice test to see how well they did these 2 pages. You can have them do on their own, read the questions, or have them do it on independently, and see kind of how much they got out of the chapter, what they need more help in. And then these are just like extra little practice little like vocabulary flashcards they can use. And then we're already on to 6. So next week we'll be doing shapes and geometry. So that'll be fun too. All right, if you have any questions or you need help, please let me know. I am happy to help and love helping. So if you have any questions, let me know. Bye.